Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 140. Happy December, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing weekend so far. We're going to be jumping straight into this one today because we have a lot of charts to cover. So first things first, get comfortable, get relaxed, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's the morning time, or a glass of wine or beer or any beverage of your choice. Again, welcome to the Red Pill Podcast. And if you are new here to our mastermind community, welcome to the Wolfpack. So great to have you here with us. If you haven't gotten access to our Discord server, just make sure to send me a direct message on Patreon with your full Discord username and the last four numbers after your username if you have those. And I will reply back in a Patreon message with your Discord server invite. Please don't comment or send me any emails with that information because I won't be able to help you out that way. And we're doing incredible with our altcoin voting system as usual. Today we have a ton of charts to get into. I'm actually going to be covering a recap on the stock market as well as the DXY. We're going to also be spending a little bit of time looking at that S&P 500 chart that I've shown you guys before regarding the end of the year of the rabbit moving into the year of the dragon, as well as gold, because of gold potentially breaking into a new all-time high, which I believe we might have actually had this past Friday on the weekly close. We'll be going over that, of course. And then Bitcoin dominance, and the CME chart for Bitcoin, so Bitcoin Chicago Mercantile Exchange chart. We'll be getting into Ethereum, XRP, as well as Gala, Casper, Cosmos, Flux, and Digibyte. So you could only imagine how much value is going to be inside of today's Red Pill Podcast. So we just want to get straight into things, not kill any time. Again, I appreciate every single one of you for showing up. It's been a wild ride. We have spoken about this idea of a 40K Bitcoin before the end of the year of 2023, and we've essentially hit that target earlier today. So this is something we talked about over half a year ago, probably as far as 8 months ago. It's been amazing to see how quickly, once we went from that new solar cycle, passing the second solar eclipse on October 14th, everything just ramped up exactly how we anticipated. Since then, we've been watching a lot of these, what I would call confirmations, come to play. For instance, we had the lunar eclipse closure, and that lunar eclipse close that we had in the market coming in on 34K Bitcoin back there right after our solar eclipse, of course, in late October. And this idea that Bitcoin tends to close the following full moon higher than that lunar eclipse, and that's exactly what Bitcoin did. We got that close in at 37K, so incredibly bullish. Now, another confirmation that we're waiting on was this closure above 39,000 Bitcoin. So in my last YouTube video, I reviewed the importance of the date of December 13th, specifically this day being the day after this month's new moon on December 12th, and it would be the day of the next FOMC meeting where Fed Chair Powell will speak. Also the day Mercury goes retrograde, which typically has an impact on the markets in a noticeable way. I'll be getting to that in a moment with the Mercury retrograde chart that we have specifically for Bitcoin, but just a quick update about this post that I shared yesterday over here. And this was what happened yesterday. We actually did get a daily close above this 618 fib, and that is a huge confirmation in the short term, which, again, if you watched my last YouTube video, you know that this could lead to about a 1 to 2 week rally for Bitcoin, where we get a little bit overheated, overextended, and then have a pretty noticeable pullback. But the reason I wanted to say this now at the beginning of today's podcast is because one of the things that we've seen in all past iterations of Bitcoin cycles in solar cycles is that the full moon that follows the lunar eclipse, well, the full moon that follows that, Bitcoin also tends to close higher. So that's pretty dramatic. If you consider what I shared in my last video about the opportunity for Bitcoin to go above 50K, or at least into 50K this month. And remember, that's not me saying it will do that. That's me saying, look at the charts going all the way back to 2012, and it's undeniable that this is what Bitcoin does. When it closes above this golden pocket, which we effectively have yesterday, Bitcoin tends to make a move of about 38 to 45% in 2 weeks. Happened every time. So banking against it happening this time would not be, well, be kind of foolish. But again, anything could happen in the matrix. We're open-minded. All in all, our target hit. I was looking for that about 80 to 90 cent move on XRP. We got that some months back. We're still kind of waiting on this $1 XRP, which could very well happen once there's a shift in dominance, which is a big reason why I want to talk about Bitcoin dominance today, as many people here are XRP holders. But this move up to above 45 into potentially 50K Bitcoin could definitely be what fuels that last pop up for XRP. And it's not the last, but really what I mean to say is that I do feel we're going to get overextended if we were to make this move that quick, that soon. That's just words of wisdom. You can't keep going up in a straight line. Something's got to give. And there's always a moment where Bitcoin gets overheated, kind of chills out, pulls back, and then we have this lull. And that's a boring moment, which is always the greatest opportunity to DCA. Again, not my opinion. This is not financial advice. It's just what Bitcoin does. It's what these markets do, actually. So we talked about having a lunar eclipse level of 34K, anticipating the following full moon to be above that. Check. Now, the next full moon, which is going to be landing on December 26th, pretty much right after Christmas Day, well, there's an opportunity for us to close even higher than 37,000, or at least above 37. We always want to be conservative at this time. So if we were to have a move where Bitcoin was to push up into 54K, let's just say around this month's new moon, and then we pulled back really hard all the way to maybe 33, or even back down to this major trend line that I have here marked on my chart, and then we were to bounce, still closing around this level on the full moon, that would be kind of what Bitcoin has done every time as well. And I've shown you guys this. In the same week, or the week that we make this explosive move to the upside, we see that Bitcoin has 30% pullback in the first week to follow. Here, this is a 40%. I drew it out a little more extreme, but it just gives you the range. So let me recap this. I'll be showing you this Mercury retrograde chart, and then we'll talk about a couple dates, but just a recap on stuff that we've been following along anyways. Bear with me here. I'm going to make this looking nice and clean for everyone so that you could all follow along. And please, if you did not watch my last YouTube video, you should. It was packed with gems. So here we have the first cycle of going from 2011 up here to this spike about 2013, and it was a double cycle. Beautiful to be invested in this bear market of 2011. But needless to say, I think this is something to focus on a lot because of moving into the year of the dragon, which we're about to do. Also having these lows coming in November, which is what happened this cycle. We had our lows come in November of last year. And this type of structure is seemingly what Bitcoin is pulling off as we speak. So we have a lot of things to consider, but if you've been following along this channel, you know that we've been talking about the solar cycle and the solar eclipses as having more weight than what people traditionally talk about with the halving. Now, the halving is not unimportant, and some people have come to my work and they're like, oh, Waters talks about the halving. He must not know that this doesn't matter because some other analyst said that it does. We don't play that game here. There's no competition. I've shown you guys the truth, and it's not anything to do with the halving as much as it is to do with eclipses. I wish that wasn't the case sometimes because it's been scary how accurate this has been. And when you combine eclipses with the cycle that we're in, whether that be solar or lunar cycle, and then you combine that with stuff like basically our TA that we've had, also Satoshi's birthday has played a huge role in all of this. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But these are some of the things that are very, avant-garde. They're very esoteric, and most people wouldn't realize them. And at the same time, some people go a little too deep and they start disregarding just exoteric stuff like the halving. I mean, it's undeniable when you look at the halving that 50 days before up to 50 days after has been some of the best final buying opportunities. How could somebody deny that when we have a decade of data to prove it? So I just want you, I say this not to have anyone disregard anyone else's analysis, but it's to make you a self-reliant investor. It's to make you a self-reliant technical analyst. I want you to be able to go into these charts and be able to see all the things that I'm seeing. Then this way you're making decisions for yourself, and it's not just waking up and following what some YouTuber says. This is a very important thing to talk about now, family, because we're moving into this next cycle, and we're going to watch people show up out of the woodwork with nothing and then make their way to 100,000 subscribers talking about some mess. They never cared about crypto before. They're just going to ride the wave, the hype, you know? I know you guys could see through this. And you're going to see people that were gone during the whole bear market reemerge. Channels that took a big break. I wonder why. So what we're about to get into real quick is just a quick kind of recap, showing everything cycle by cycle, undeniable. And this will prepare you all for what the next big move is in this market and how it could all go down. We have this fib pulled, so just basic Fibonacci retracement tool from swing high to swing low. We're going to go ahead and double click on this and make sure that this setting is turned on, fib levels based on log scale, and I'm on a logarithmic chart. Also, I really like this index chart for Bitcoin. It's pretty much the furthest back in data. It goes to where Bitcoin was below a penny. Pretty mind-blowing. It's also funny how sometimes I get comments. I got one recently, and I don't entertain these too often, but it just reminds me of kind of where retail is at, where they were calling Bitcoin shitcoin, like that was their way of making fun of this. And I thought it was pretty hilarious because I'm like, well, what has done this? Can you explain? Can you explain something that has gone up? Can you read that number? Can somebody read this number for me real quick? Do you even know how? I'm not being facetious. I mean, it's just incredible. It's the best performing asset ever. Why troll something that has results? Well, I'll tell you why. Because that's what losers do. I know that hurts for some people to hear. I hope it doesn't hurt anyone here, because we're all adults. But when you see something succeeding or you see something winning and you are starting to feel these feelings, well, then that's jealousy and that's lack. And that lack is going to carry into other facets of your life. And if you want to become an abundant being and expand consciously, you're not going to have to look at things like that anymore. And also, you don't praise stuff like this either. I don't praise it because it's the best performing asset. That doesn't serve me. I just need to learn about it. It's like hating on the tax code or hating on rich people or hating on this or hating on that. Just learn it. Be curious. Observe it. Speak less about it. Observe more. And that's what's going to help you expand. That's what's going to help you make that transition away from the herd. So again, fib retracement pull. And we're going to be going off on a lot of these, like, you know, tangents, words of wisdom, nugget bombs, because we're in that time where they're needed. We really need to talk about this stuff, especially when we have this longer form podcast. I know a lot of you appreciate this stuff because it's the words that are missing most of the time from the average analysis. Getting into this, we have this golden pocket. And with this movement into the golden pocket, we're going to zoom in and share how once Bitcoin has closed the daily above, we make a sharp move to the upside. This one lasted about 10 days. If we were to go off that daily open to that wick high, that was 40% in 10 days. And then look at this correction, family. Boom. All right, we're going to go over to the next cycle. Same idea here. We have a fib, swing high to swing low. We're going to be zooming into the moment we got into the golden pocket. And you're going to see right here is effectively on this day. I mean, pretty much on that day. 15 days, 2 weeks. Now I'm going to show you from the daily open on the day that we did this up to the swing high, and we got about 46%. So if I was fair and I made it on this day, daily open to the wick high, you're going to see it gives you about 38%. So you can see on the swing, it's 38 to 45. Same timing though, same move, same huge correction. We're going to be going over to this cycle. This one had an anomaly, which was the C19 crash. You all know about it, but we're going to apply the same principles. We have that swing high to swing low on the fibs. We're going to be zooming in to where we have this golden pocket. We have this green candle closing into the golden pocket. And we have 5 days later, boom, topped out above the 786. So a pretty explosive move. And if I go off this candle close bottom up to this swing high, 45%. This one just happened fast, but it actually hung out at the top and even gave a bull trap. This bull trap is pretty nice, but I could assume the reason why was because of the solar eclipse. That's why. We don't have to deal with that right now. We're already past that. We don't have another eclipse until April, right? So also look at the structure. I really want you to pay attention to this. All of that candle closure rejections, and then boom, stopped out right at that level. That is very much what Bitcoin seems to be doing right now with this move over here. Let me zoom in. You see all of these dailies that were getting rejected at this level. Recently, we've started to effectively break out. And this isn't the cleanest trend line in the world, but it's just to show you how arduous and grinding up this was until we've had effectively this move into the golden pocket. That's 40 trading days. Okay, so what was our pattern here? All right. I also do not want to disregard the fact that after we hit this level within 5 days, within 6 days, we got a 30% pullback. We got 30% pullbacks 1 week after topping out every single time. All right. So we go up 38 to 45%, and then we had a dramatic pullback right away, 7 days later. And the move to the upside, a majority of that move was about 7 days as well, even though it took 2 weeks from getting in the golden pocket. So we had one extreme where it was 15 days, still super close, 15, 14, you're splitting hairs, right? So we have this daily close. We're going to go over 14 trading days, and it's going to bring us to December 16th, and then we have the 17th, okay? But remember, the 7 days before topping out is pretty much where a majority of the gains come in, the 5 to 7 days. Now, if we were to take from the extreme in the data from the 17th and then pull it back about 4 trading days, it's the new moon. All right. So if we were to take from here to the new moon date, right around there, we got about 11 days. That fits perfectly into what we've been anticipating. And then if we measure the move from the top of the 618 fib up 40%, it gives us the average, and that would be 55K Bitcoin. We have 38%, which would be putting us at about 54. And then on our 45% move, that would be 50, let's just call it 57. And if we wanted to be fair and go off the daily open and go up 45% from there, that would be a little bit more accurate, I believe. You're still 56K. So we've mapped out this level. We're going to do it again for everyone. And we're going from, I want to say 52, because a part of me just wants to be more conservative right now. And then we're going to move that up to about 57. It's a pretty big range. I get it. But that's Bitcoin. It's volatile as shit. Now, what we want to think is a 30% pullback off that level brings us into 40,000, and a 30% pullback off this level would be bringing us into 35,000. So if we were to really drown out and do like a 40% move, that would be right at the lunar eclipse level. That might be the best opportunity to get into Bitcoin ever for the rest of the cycle. Let me look at all of the moves and make sure that we have the extremes in the data. This one's going to be 50%. Mamma mia. All right, so we have over here, we're going to be considering this move from swing high to swing low. 40% on the nose. Okay, and this one was much, much more, and it was really arduous and boring as hell. 53% pretty much before we had a pivot bull trap, which led to this C19 thing. So this was a anomaly in the data for sure. So we're going to consider 50%. Why not? Why not? If we were to make it all the way up to 57,000, why not? Ooh, okay. So that would be back at 28K. And that's actually structurally normal, because that would be the top area of the 382 fib. And what do I teach you guys? When you get above the 382 is when you're in automatic rally vibes. When you get to the top of the golden pocket is when you're in the finality of an automatic rally. Then you typically come back test around that area, at least trading below the golden pocket again. I hope this all makes sense. So keep that in mind. That type of move is in the cards, and because we have so much volume built up in this area between 26 and 30, that wouldn't be weird. Now, how long will that last? That might only last a 4-hour candle. We could be bought up from 28K Bitcoin, literally, back up to this level of 34K Bitcoin in a day. Why not? Why not? Let's go back to the past and show you exactly what I mean. So over here, we have this moment. Look at that. Off of that 50% correction that came in 3 days, Bitcoin was bought right back up 35% the following day, and then made higher lows and never went lower again. It's a flash crash. It was a liquidation event. Here, we had an immediate 30% pullback, got bought back up, about 26%. We did go again to the downside. But if you look at things generally, holding structure, we kept it moving. That was too close to the halving too. We tend to see mini flash events for Bitcoin around the halving, typically. And then remember what I was saying about the second solar eclipse of the solar cycle. We have lunar eclipse, full moon, higher lows on all the full moons. Even here, this was pretty much on par. So because of that, it's making me feel that we're probably going to have this move this month. And it would be in alignment with everything that we've talked about, where Bitcoin gets to 50K, somewhere into 50K, and then has a dramatic pullback sometime before the end of the year, but then closes the yearly still above 37. So I'm going to leave that at that. I've gone into deep enough. We're just going to quickly look at this Mercury retrograde chart. It's something I've talked about a while ago, probably covered it in the summertime of this year, the last time Mercury was stationed retrograde, since it's been direct, and then now we're moving into another one. And just a quick note on this, and then we might cover it a little bit later, is that Bitcoin tends to top out before a Mercury retrograde and then corrects. So let's just show you all the recent iterations. You have here, August 2022, we have topped out before, or let me explain this really quickly. The red boxes are when Mercury's retrograde, okay? Whenever it's a red box. We topped out before Mercury retrograde, pulled back into it, and actually closed Mercury retrograde lower, right? We even have a deeper correction to follow that. Over here, we were positive most of the time, but you see how we did top out before correcting into Mercury retrograde. And that's what I want us to focus on most, all right? We have iteration 1, top out, correct into Mercury retrograde. Iteration 2, top out, correct into Mercury retrograde. Iteration 3, we topped out, corrected into Mercury retrograde. Topped out. I mean, really, if you wanted to keep it close, we topped out before it, corrected into Mercury retrograde. Isn't this perfect? I would not be surprised if we'd made this move soon. It could happen just like it did maybe last cycle, where we went up fast in only 5 or 7 days. So 7 days from today, we could go, have it be really close to what happened here. We could top out next week. Why not? Why not? So I just want to make note of that, because we do have some cycles where you see here, like we topped out early, traded down into it, and then during the beginning phase of it, we were pretty bullish. Here, look, we were bullish the whole time in Mercury retrograde. Here, even though we corrected into it, we bounced off the beginning of Mercury station retrograde bullish. Here, look, corrected into it sideways, but had a bullish moment during it. And you see these little, like, look at the structure, boom, boom, up, down, up, down. It's very much liquidation events. So it's volatility. That could be what happens in reverse. Basically, we move up, we come down harsh into the start of Mercury retrograde, and sometime during it, we pop up again, kind of just hold sideways until the following, let's just say, January new moon. don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think just in the first 20 minutes of this podcast, I've given you guys so much value as to how this is likely to go down. So let's get over to this date really quickly. We have December 13th is what I've been talking about a lot. We're going to be connecting that to the next solar eclipse, which is on April 8th, and it's 117 days apart. And the reason that is important is because Bitcoin in Gematria equals 117. And remember the true code behind the 9/11 ritual that happened in 2001 in New York City? Because it was September 11th. It's the 11th day, and septem for September is Latin for 7. It's the true 7th month in the calendrical system. This is why it was Tower 1, then the other tower, that's your towers 1, 1, Yakin and Boaz, and it's followed by building 7. It was a 7/11 ritual, not a 9/11 ritual. And when you consider the numerology, you have 1 + 1 + 7 = 9. You all know about the 369 code. That's the energy behind this ritual. Then all of that prana goes into the pentagon, the pentagram. This is ceremonial magic. That's all that was. It was not a terror attack. Let's move on. I want you to consider this one date of December 10th, especially because I just shared something with you moments ago about moving up a little bit earlier to get to our peak before the start of Mercury retrograde, which seems to be what Bitcoin's been tending to do lately. It's not what I'm saying it will do, but it's what Bitcoin's been doing pretty much for the past year plus. So if we are going to make this move up to 50K and stall out, it would be likely to happen before December 13th, which is perfect because that's the FOMC meeting date. So when you connect this particular day, which by the way will be the next Red Pill podcast date, so that'll be interesting, I want to show you connected to Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday, because this is big, and we have the 117 code again. Remember, Bitcoin in Gematria is 117. And Satoshi, the mythology, is the creator of Bitcoin. This lands on the day that leaves 21 days left in the year. And Satoshi is Saturn, 21 by the code. That's important. Remember, Bitcoin has 21 million coins in supply. And this date is perfectly synchronized because it's an 11-date numerology, which is 2 1s. 1 1 is 2 1s, like the number 21 we just talked about a moment ago. Like this day leaves 21 days left in the year. And this date of December 10th is actually 1010. Because Dechi is 10. That's the true date. It would be 1010, which you would remove the 0 in the rules of numerology, and that becomes 11, the master number. You got 11 in the date, you got 11 down here, and this is all 11 being 2 1s, the 21 tied to Satoshi, Saturn, 21 in the code. So it's already powerful. But a final note on this is that the last day of the 49th week of the year will be this date. And we're connecting this day, the last day of the 49th week of this year, to Satoshi's 49th birthday, which lands on the 96th day of the year. And we spoke about that earlier. December 13th lands on this 347th day of the year. That's the 69th prime number. Bitcoin's current all-time high is 69,000. Saturn in Gematria is 69. We know that this code is powerful because it's a balancing of energy. It's the yin-yang. This date is so powerful because it's going to be right before our solar eclipse, right before the Bitcoin halving. This is huge. So now is the perfect time to get into the charts and review what's been going on over the past week in the stock market since we went over it last week, and we've had a continuation of the bullish energy across the board in pretty much everything. So I want to be going into that. Actually, what I would prefer to do is start with the DXY. We already gave you the dates. You guys are well aware now. I'm going to be heading over to DXY chart. and I want to show you a very powerful trend line that we've bounced on, and it's right here. So we've had, going back from July, rejection. Here was a crown top distribution, which led to a break of this trend line after having approximately 3 weeks of rejections. This effectively becoming a resistance confirmed. We've corrected again, rejected again, still resistance. Now, since July, we've had this breakout into October. That was around our lows so far in this cycle for the micro cycle for the stock market. And we've come back to back test it again, which could be confirming it as a short-term support. So we have to see, because we have resistance, 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 a breakout back test to confirm support. That's very good to see. And it could also be confirming another higher low. So we have here would be a bear trap, because look at what it leads to. You have your lower low, which leads to a higher high regarding this resistance. We have our high right there. Technically, it would have been right here. We broke above that, and then we cleared this level. That's a really bullish move. Now, if it bounces and it could get back above this level, that's even more bullish, and the timing of this would take a minute. I would suspect that that would probably take until around May. That these moves take time when you're looking at the DXY. So we have here from here, it's about 78 days, and we have from here to here. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense into February. Yeah, because I was anticipating that we'd probably get a short-term correction for the stock market into mid-February. That's perfect. And it could at least be a back test of these levels, maybe even a little bit higher. All right, let's get back on track here. I just wanted to share with you this back test on this bounce, and I feel like that could be telling a story that a correction in the market is coming soon. And it seems to be perfectly synchronized with Bitcoin about to make this move up into the mid 40s, potentially mid 50K. Perfectly at the same time where we're seeing the stock market get overheated. So that it times nicely. It seems really synced. Let's go to the Dow Jones. Insane breakout. Look at this. 2 back-to-back green candles clearing the 888 fib, and now we are effectively within all-time highs on the Dow Jones. This is absolutely silly to see. But here we are. We're in la la land. The market does what it does. We have the FOMC meeting in about a week and a half. We'll see what the Fed does in response to all of this. You guys know that this is like clown world. We had the Jubilee year. The Jubilee year definitely mixes things up, keeps things a little bit more on the positive side, because that's what Jubilee was always about. But in order to be positive in one way, you have to be negative in another way. So what does that mean? It means anyone who's involved in the market is doing great, but people who are not involved in the market are getting slammed with hyperinflation and fucking war breaking out in some places. So it's a ritual to the world, but then market participants get to take advantage of it. And that's exactly who the apex predator is. It's all about energy. They have to take from somewhere to give to the other. So with this market behaving like this and clearing this level of July, I mean, this is so bullish. You can't, there's nothing you could possibly say bearish about this. We have continuation of higher lows, now a break into a higher high. I mean, we are getting pretty damn overheated on the RSI, so something's got to give. It would not be surprising to me if we were to maybe double top and then have a sharp pullback and then rise up into the new year. And we're going to get into the S&P right now because I feel like that's also going to reveal something quite important, which aligns with my overall thesis. Well, here we are. We've double topped on this local, or on our yearly high so far. Wow. Within reach of the 888 fib. Absolutely mind-blowing. We have this level over here before a pretty devastating correction. We've gravitated back to this now for the second time. So we have to see when we open up this trading week what the S&P is going to do in reaction to this level around 4,600 points. Let me turn off this RSI, and I wanted to just share this end of the rabbit year moving into the year of the dragon and how we tend to move during this time. And I've seen 2 charts that are really interesting, and one of them is this 2000 chart right over here. So you have your .com bubble vibe, but I specifically want to talk about this right here, this move where we broke into new all-time highs right before the end of the year, pretty much into the start of the new year. You see that? So we had our highs in July, and then correction, and then a correction in October, which is kind of the same thing we had this time, and then a super bullish buyback to finish off the year on a higher high. That could very well be what we do this year. I mean, it's mind-blowing to think about, but it's possible. Now, but you see what this leads to. This leads to a correction pretty much to the end of February. Okay, keep that in mind because of what I just shared before about the DXY. About the DXY going up potentially in the month of February and topping out there. Then a big rejection on the DXY, which is going to be synced with a bullish move in the S&P to the upside. So it's always counter each other. I still feel in late March into very early April that would be the short-term top for the market. This is in alignment with not only the solar cycle theory with Bitcoin and the halving and everything else going on there, but it's every year of the dragon. We do the same thing. So let me just quickly show you that, and then we're going to move on. So we have the last year of the dragon. You have right here, we topped out April 2nd, and we were down all the way until September, okay? Think about that, family. And look, we were at new all-time highs by then too, just like back here. Well, not new all-time highs, cycle highs is what I should say. When we're looking at stock market data, it's so much. It's so many years in between. Anyways, okay, then we have that 2000 year we were just talking about. You could see right here, moved up to our yearly high in March, and that was effectively the overall cycle high because it led to the dot-com bubble. Then we have back here, we have right there topping out mid-April perfectly. Correction, and we got back up pretty quick, but we had that sell in May moment. Nice buyback. And this was a very nice structure after a devastating flash crash we had Black Monday in 1987. Going back, we have 1976, and here we are. Look at that. End of the year, moving into the new year, we get to about February, stall out, but effectively at pretty nice buyback off of considering the prior year. But what I want to focus on is this stalling out in April. So you see right there. Sell into June. September plays a big role into all of this. And I'm going to talk about this in a future video. So I hope this is kind of giving you an idea that moving into the election year at the very beginning could be very bullish, and it could even lead to a new all-time high in the stock market. And then a little bit of a pullback in February, which is an opportunity. And then we have that lunar eclipse in late March, solar eclipse in April. That kind of sends us up into a weird, like bull trap vibe, and then a noticeable correction into May. And we're really getting ahead of ourselves here, but it's just the kind of, person I am. If I know I want to talk about it, I want to prepare you. It's important because then we could focus on life. When we're prepared with this market and we know exactly what we're going to do far in advance, we could plan how we're going to structure our cash flow and our investment thesis, build our investment thesis around that. And then we have all this extra time for life, spending time with friends and family and creating art and sharing our truth and doing all the things that matter more than just staring at charts. Let's be real here, right? So I hope that this is something that's making sense to people here, that this move that we've gotten lately is quite bullish, a little bit too bullish too soon. But with this FOMC meeting coming soon, I mean, that's really the guillotine, I suspect, for a short-term move, potentially backtesting on just another higher low, and then bullish into the start of the year of the dragon. I suspect that would make the most sense, moving bullish into the year of the dragon after we get through Mercury station retrograde, which it ends on January 1st, right there at the new year. Going to be skipping over to the NASDAQ now. I suspect this is silly as well. Yes, it is. So we've cleared the 888, another yearly high, back tested the 888. Who knows where this can go now? This could honestly just do a double top. So the correction level down, if it was to come back into this range that we were getting some rejections on, and I should extend this more, I think that'd be better. Yeah, that's cleaner. Look at the gap. Okay. So if we were to if we were to come back down into this range right here, back test the top of the golden pocket, the 786, that'd be about 5% correction. That's normal for the NASDAQ especially. And it's in alignment with a crucial level that we see here, there, huge rejection. And then we gravitated right back to it perfectly. Built a lot of support above the 702 fib. We're in this flag, and that flag could still be playing out, which could be bringing us into the 1618. Insane to even say that, but I don't know if we'll make it that high, but 20,000 for the NASDAQ is not weird in this next year of the Dragon. Could hit by September of next year. I mean, what would that be to go from here to 20,000? Be a 25% move. Let's look off of here, March. It's been 37% off of the March crash with Silicon Valley Bank failing. So we know we can move 25% up from here, right? It's a sneeze. Especially with tech, with all the shit going on with AI. Think about it. 2024, 20,000 points on the NASDAQ. It's possible. But in the meantime, clearing this 888 is insanely bullish. It's too bullish. And it's, as a technical analyst, all of our jaws are on the ground with this NASDAQ chart. It's been like this whole year. And again, I just attribute the Jubilee to that. This is going to follow the same thing I've been saying with the Dow and the S&P, and it's aligned with that DXY analysis, which I suspect the DXY is more than likely to continue bullish on this bounce, move up to about 105. Could happen soon, actually, like within the month, about a 2% move. Perhaps rejection off of there. Come back down into January, and then again move back up around this March timeframe. Just this zigzaggy vibe, I think, is a lot more of what I'm anticipating rather than any huge moves. Like no market crashes soon, and no blast off, moves on the stock market just yet. We're not talking about price discovery, noticeable bullish price discovery just now. I think we have to get through that FOMC to start making a determination on it. I want to go over to gold. Did gold make a new all-time high? Almost. Okay, so gold is within a sneeze of the all-time high. We got it about 2080, and this makes that buy-in that I did on the gold back here at 1810. You guys can maybe remind everyone of what podcast that was in. Probably one of the most legendary calls I've ever made to this day on an asset that I don't really spend too much time paying attention to, but I shared that I was picking up a 10% gold position across my overall portfolio, and it was in this whole week from 1830 to 1812, I believe, is where the lowest I got in on physical gold. And so since, what are we, 15%? Yeah, about 14%. So that's gorgeous. And if we do get a noticeable pullback between now and then, I'll just buy that dip too. Build a little more in that position, but still keep it about 10%. Then I see us moving to 2400 in the year of the dragon. So that's really the ultimate move. With building that position, we're getting about a 30% increase, which I feel is pretty solid for this particular asset, given where we're going with inflation and all the other things. You guys probably know enough about this. I'm not a big gold educator. I don't talk about it too much. It's not a big part of my thesis, but where we're at right now, post-Jubilee, with 5 years to go before the next Shemitah, I just feel like it's a responsible thing to do. So we have, 2021, we got 2020, 4 years away. Okay. Got it's about 4 years away from the next Shemitah. I feel like it made sense. If there was any bigger pullback, it made sense. And I can't even believe how quickly it got too. Although this is mimicking this move, I want you guys to keep in mind, look at this level over here. 1800, just pay attention. 1800, we go straight to the top here. 1800, and we just go straight to the top. You see? 1800, straight to the top. Why does it keep doing that? There's a reason. Look, 1800, straight to the top. We chop around that level. We like that level a lot on gold. I need to mark that off. It's pretty brilliant. It's just every time. So you should probably go like there. Every time. Wild. Like every time we bounce there, we just go straight up once, twice, 3 times, and this is the 4th time. This is a quadruple top. I would feel confident saying that because this one was almost 2 years apart. This one was over a year apart, and this one's going on like 3/4 of a year. Wild. All right, well, there you have it. We're probably breaking out soon. Going into price discovery for gold. I mean, there's only so many times you could keep getting to this top level without bashing through it. It's going to be a rocket ship soon. So, yep, there you go. I mean, this is in alignment with a lot of other things. If we're going to see a 20,000 NASDAQ potentially by September of next year, then, I mean, of course, gold should hit that 2,400 level. And what's the biggest rally we've seen on gold in our recent future? So I suspect it would be this one. Yeah, big horizontal trading range. What is this, our 236? Yeah, perfect. Look at that. Off the 236. By the way, this was probably when the gold ETF launched. I need to look back and to confirm that date. 70%. So if we went 70% off here, let's see where that's getting us. Sorry. Shit, 2,700 in the Jupiter year. That makes so much sense because we have Jupiter giving you that 27. Boom. So remember, it's the year of the 24. The Hebrew year of 5784 adds up to 24. 24 is the zodiac logo of Jupiter, which is just a sideways Saturn logo, father and son. So we have that Jupiter connection to that number 27. Inverse 27 is 72. That's Bitcoin. So there's definitely going to be a lot of ties in there. We also have the 36 and 45 also in Jupiter. You can see that right there. Big. And this tells me, yeah, that 2,700 on gold is totally possible. Also 3-8, gold 38, 8, 16, 24. Perfectly aligned and synchronized. 2 7s. All right. That would be pretty cool. The time though, it should take time. Like, I mean, what is that? 450. Oh, that might be the same. Yeah, we're already there. Of course, I'm not saying this is perfectly like in alignment with that moment, but it's just giving you an idea. If we were to measure, maybe I did that wrong. Excuse me. Oop. Yeah, sorry. So it should have been from here to there. 636. Oh, now we're talking. So July. I could see that. Oh, I could see that. Yeah, by August, September, for sure. 2,700 gold. And then what was that move? Is that a 50%? On gold, imagine. Fuck. Like, I mean, pretty crazy. All right, move on. The idea here on gold is if it is going to come back down, I'll tell you, it's going straight to 2,000. Like, if it keeps getting rejected at the same level, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it comes right back into the 888 fib, and then we can see there's some noticeable trading around that 2,000 flat. We had a rejection there, followed by a pretty decent correction before breaking through. So that would be about what, like a 4% pullback. And that could be in alignment with that move that happens in the stock market. If we were to see the stock market correct in the short term, with this FOMC leading into the next month's full moon, or leading into this month's full moon, we could see that. We could see gold at 2,000 again. I don't know if we're really talking buying opportunities for everyone here. This is for a specific type of person with a specific investment thesis. And like, if you're looking for ROI, that's not really where it's at. You know, I'm just being honest and transparent here. Also, it depends on your flow state. If you're somebody who doesn't own a home, you travel a lot, you don't want to have a safe to keep all this gold, like, you know, like you just have to think about that kind of stuff with gold. With Bitcoin, you don't have to think about that. Got it on a hardware wallet. It's like fairy dust with tons of value. Again, all money is belief, and a lot of people believe in crypto, and more believing in it every day. So invest in the future. The only reason for gold is, again, you have to have your own investment thesis, and it needs to be sensible for you. Going to go over to Bitcoin. We talked a lot about Bitcoin earlier, but there is a couple things that I want to quickly recap. I want to be turning off these drawings, and I want to go to just do some traditional analysis because we had our monthly close. Let's see what Bitcoin did on our monthly. So we closed 8.8% up. Oof. So off of the open at 25, we are up over 50% already, which could effectively lead us to a move of 100%. And that's just important because that was around the last time that I was purchasing Bitcoin. So being able to make a 100% move like that quickly, especially, look, it was sideways and boring for 200 days. So that was the best time to buy because it was not only your lowest that you got. Like if I zoom in, really pay attention to what I'm saying right now, family. Since getting rejected here, we had 214 days of rejections. We went the lowest pretty much on the September timeframe, leading into that October solar eclipse. And that was the best effective time to buy because you bought it near the end. That's why I like these eclipses so much. I mean, it just really helps you to dial everything in, and it gives you a date far in advance. Like we can go right now to the website and look at where all the eclipses are in 2024. Use your witchcraft skills, Harry. Anyways, traditional analysis, we have the 8 above the 13, above the 21, above the 34, above the 55. This is insanely bullish. Nothing negative to say here. We're only at 60 RSI on the monthly, so we have tons of room to go to the upside. We do want to consider, though, that if there was going to be any real dramatic pullbacks, that 8 simple moving average would most likely hold and backtest. I don't know if we could make it that low, though. On a wick bi-weekly analysis, we're going to be closing a bi-weekly today. And you can't be any more bullish than this because we have a wolf cross. We have the 8 above the 55. Incredible. When was the last time we had that shit going on? Pretty much the end of the last cycle. I mean, if we look at the last time we made a wolf cross, we held it all the way for over 1,100 days on the biweekly. Also, when we made it was right there at the end of the automatic rally. So look at where we're making it now. It's pretty much right there, what we could assume could be the end of the automatic rally. Isn't that pretty amazing? So we got the cross, and then the following 14 days is when we topped out. So here we got the cross. It's like happening in between. So yeah, I mean, it would make sense to put it there. That's pretty crazy how in alignment that is. I mean, everything's about it's pretty aligned. You know, you have your all-time high in December, all-time low in December. Here you have your all-time high in November, all-time low in November. Moving up bullish into solar cycle, moving up bullish into solar cycle. Wolf cross right before you go into the top of your automatic rally. Wolf cross, we're pretty much right there on track. That's unbelievable. Here was your halving. So if we were to have any corrections, it's more likely to happen before the halving. You're more likely to have the best valued Bitcoin before halvings. But because of where we're at now, it's not as much of an opportunity because you're only looking at a gain of 30, 40% from where we're at, and then pulling back potentially right back to where we are, maybe even a little bit lower. So it's like now it's a little bit more of like a chill moment. But if Bitcoin wants to get back to 30, I might buy again. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I might. Also, wait 1 second, family. I'm just going to grab some water. I need that in order to finish today's episode. 1 second. All right, lightning speed. So let's get into the weekly. Where are we at with this? Amazing. We could see this 55 is about to cross the 200. So bullish. And it's happening right at our structural support, getting slightly above 26 into potentially 27K on today's weekly close. Nothing negative to say about this. So I'm just going to leave it at that because what is there really to say? I mean, this is all bullish. Let's go on to ETH. Oh, no, excuse me. I want to look at CME. There could potentially be a gap on the CME chart because of what's happening right now. We have this downside gap at the 20s. I don't think that'll ever get filled with the way things are going right now. We had this upside gap filled, and we don't have anything above us, do we? At least not that I'm aware of. So we'll have to see how this all opens up, because there could potentially be a gap. And if there is one, that would actually be good, because it would confirm our thesis of us having a sharp move up and then coming right back to essentially where we were trading before closing the daily in the 618. So I'm going to go over to Bitcoin dominance now, wrap up that idea. And we talked about this too recently, about how I had a projection into this 0.5 fib on the CME, and I'm looking for a potential move all the way up to the 1618 as well. That would make a lot of sense, especially because our fib is pulled from starting here all the way to this swing low. And you can see we've tested around the sub 40% level 5 times before Bitcoin finally rallied out and does what it typically does at the start of a new bull cycle leading into the halving. So this is fine. The way that we keep interacting with this blue trend line is pretty obvious. We just keep bouncing and then making another higher high, having a little bit of like this BART pattern thing going on. We're just looking at dominance, by the way. Riding on this line and then jumping up again. So suspect, since we got about 6%, it's got about 9%, it's got about 13%, it's got about 9%. It's got about 7%. So off of here, about 7%. Yeah, we're looking at 8% to get to this 1618. And then maybe we'd have a little bit of alt movement. Okay. We're pretty much good on Bitcoin, I believe. We talked about everything. Let's go to Ethereum. ETH is kind of doing what gold did. Like, it's having this multiple rejection vibe, but we're breaking out. And if we are to break, 24 to 2500 makes sense. I don't know if we could really get to the top of the golden pocket like we've seen with Bitcoin. But if we were to align this blue trend line, which was getting rejected all throughout this year, pretty much from the end of last year through this moment here in August, if we were to come back up to that sometime in the middle of December, that would be perfectly at 2,500, and that'd be a good rejection point. That's basically what Bitcoin's been doing. It's been rejecting on the outside of the same style of trend line. Let me just quickly show you. So here's that same white line. We broke down through it, and then we gravitated right back up to it. So we haven't really had that with ETH yet, and I know this might not be the cleanest trend line on earth, but it's still decent enough for us to get an idea. All these touch points, a fake out, and then a breakdown. And we can see that aligns perfectly with about 2,500. So 24 to 2,500 on ETH. And then I would suspect we could see that correction come back to, it could go to the 382. Remember, ETH is not as strong right now as Bitcoin. This is the Bitcoin show. Bitcoin is what's getting all this dominance. It's what's leading the market. If you look back here, after the end of the automatic rally for Ethereum, we actually saw it trade down 67% over the next 200 days. It's pretty hardcore. So just keep that in mind, and also look at this 0.5 fib in this. We had a high slightly above it. We came back right below it before the C19 crash. And then once we really cleared it and back tested the 0.5 fib, that was it. Game over. This thing just broke out in a straight line. I don't know if we're there yet, but we're getting above it now. So we really need to start paying attention to Ethereum, because this is like leading the altcoin market. If we were to come back, if we were to make it up to around here and then break back below the 0.5, that would really solidify that we're not ready yet for crazy alt moves. And that makes sense. We're a year out. It's too soon. So just keep that in mind. Now with ETH, again, I shared the upside target potential. If we're going to see a move up to the mid 50K territory for Bitcoin, it's likely we go to 2,400 to 2,500. And then we need to see how it pulls back if it breaks below the 0.5 fib, because we got 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3 rejections lately. We want to see, does that prior resistance become a new support? I don't know if I accept that. I would suspect we break a little bit below it. just because of how strong Bitcoin is right now. Okay, XRP, I actually don't have a lot to cover this week because we've already been sharing exactly what to, consider. We need to get above our structural level to consider continuation. And what we talked about was the timing of the last fractal. That was something important that we discussed, and it has to do with this moment right here. So if I was to zoom out and show you exactly where I believe we are, we have this crown top correction and move up, exactly what happened here, just less volatile. Now, we've already topped out in the new moon, come back to the full moon. That was this to this, and we're in this phase right here. This phase of just building this sideways structure before having an explosive move to the upside. So if I was to go off the moon phases and just consider that for right now, we can see that the full moon came in about 27th of February, and then we topped out in April, 46 days later. So if we take off this full moon and we go 46 days, you're going to see that brings us into pretty much the new moon of January. Yep, January 11th. So pretty crazy. I mean, that's pretty solid thing to consider with what I shared earlier about the stock market. We could have that really explosive move up for Bitcoin and the pullback on Bitcoin, and it might not affect XRP as much. What it could do to XRP, and I know this sounds crazy, but just follow me step by step here. We see Bitcoin go to 50K. We might only see XRP go to 70 cents because of dominance. Then Bitcoin has a 30% correction and XRP only comes down to 62 cents again. Then it goes up because of the dominance flushing over. And we could also just have some sort of timed isolated thing to go down with XRP. I'm open-minded to that too in the beginning of the year. But we have Bitcoin ETF and all that kind of shenanigans going on in the background. That could definitely be what facilitates all of this to unfold. And the $1 XRP target could be in the cards, not only by the end of this year, but we could even see a little bit more exaggerated into the January new moon. Now, we will track that and see how it goes from there, but I've already covered this so many times on XRP, so it would just be reviewing the same TA over again. Let's go into Gala. It's been a minute since I've looked at this, I believe. All right. What's going on here? Mamma mia. Oof. Okay, so my issue with charts like this, and also excuse last week, I believe I went over Quant, maybe another project, and some of the members were saying that I didn't have the full chart. Now, whether I had the full chart or not, it doesn't really disregard how I feel about what's going on in the chart that I currently have. If I have at least a year to 2 years, I can get a grasp of what's happening. Also, there is so many altcoins. So I don't really want to get too caught up in getting into over diversification. Sorry, we're an hour deep into the episode. Lots to cover. So I just want to let you know that I'll probably review Quant and maybe that other coin in a couple weeks. We'll see how things go. But generally, I mean, if I'm looking at a chart and sharing what I'm feeling just off of the limited data I have, I don't think my opinion is going to change too much if we were to start adding in all this extra past data. Because we've effectively made it through C19 crash. We made it through hyperinflation and all that nonsense going on. We made it through a Shemitah year. Now we've effectively made it through a full Jubilee year. I mean, with all of that information, I have enough to work with. Again, as a more esoteric analyst, perhaps that's why I'm able to gather the data and consider it that way. Anyways, moving on. Now, Gala is on price discovery to the downside. It effectively made a new lower low in the solar eclipse timeframe. And the buyback has been pretty dramatic since, but it's because it's lost all of its value. This thing is dying. I mean, it's all retail at this point. It's just continuing down. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and pull a fib Yeah, there it is. So you saw what I did. I pulled a reverse fib from this level here to the current all-time high, and then it gives me the 1618 perfectly where we bottomed. So that's it. That's the lowest this thing is going. I'm going to pull the full-time fib, and we're going to see what we're working with here. This is a very crucial level. I'm going to go ahead and add in this level too. It's around your 382. And what I said a little bit earlier is that when you get above the 382 is when you start to have your automatic rally. And with the way the bull run might go for some altcoins in the next cycle, it might only do an automatic rally. These coins might only make it up into the golden pocket, and then that's it. Kind of like what happened with the last cycle in 2021 with Dash, Monero, Stellar Lumens. You know, that's how it went. It did not go into new all-time highs. So when you have a coin like this that's just down, 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 lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, and price discovery to the downside, I mean, at best, you would hope that it could do just finalize an automatic rally. And there's still opportunity there. So there's no point in like selling at all because it's not going to go into new all-time high. I mean, generally, if you were buying below this 382 level, then there's opportunity to de-risk and be in profit. So it's just about patience, you know. So these are your two key levels to keep in mind with Gala. It's your 6 to 7 cent level. Clearing 8 cents could send you up pretty quickly into the 702, somewhere around 25 to 28 cents. That would be generally what I anticipate. Now, if I was to analyze this, what I think the true Wyckoff is going on here, it's buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally already. Like I would consider that as a true Wyckoff schematic. Because when we do it with the fibs and crypto, we're doing like crypto didn't exist when Wyckoff was alive. So we've taken the Wyckoff method as a base foundation, and I've built around it to have something that's applicable for, you know, you guys, crypto investors. But if I was to do true Wyckoff on this, I believe this would be your buying climax, selling climax, AR, and this is your spring. Because that's denoted by the lowest you get. Everything over this level here at around 2 cents would be your test. We've come back up to these two rejection levels, which we're holding as supports even here, and rejections. So we're going on about 1 straight year of dealing with this exact level that we're dealing with right now, over a year. This is telling me that your test would be complete with trading above the 236, and then that would be healthy, and then you could confirm this is your spring. You could confirm this is the lowest you go. That's just my opinion on this. And then you would have anything above this level right there would be your SOS, a sign of strength, and then backup phase. So it could be something like this. A move that confirms your test is over and your spring is completed. Then we would have right here is your SOS, backup phase, and then your bull run buying climax. And it could just be a new double top vibe. Hope that makes sense. But I'm gonna leave it at that. All this buying down here was probably as good as it gets. It's already up about 180 to 100% since. That's very nice to see. And then off of these levels right now, these test levels into the SOS, you're looking at about 300%, so nothing mind-blowing. And then when you really consider this move up to potentially 40 cents and higher for the next bull run top, it's almost a 2,000% gain. So remember, there's thin air above this 786 on Gala. There's just such a limited data. Now, I don't know what the future of this project is. It could go to zero. The CEO of it or whoever's involved can get assassinated. I don't know. It's a really speculative shit. So you want to have venture capital with that stuff. You want to have small positions under 5%, and you don't want to get too caught up in playing around too quickly with it, unless you're in profit. You want to get in and get out if that's the case. I'm just saying, this is not one of those coins you want to be day trading. It's too much. Unless you like that. Unless that's your thing. I'm going to go to Casper. Okay. It's been a little bit of time, I believe, since I've covered Casper. Oh, this is not good. Okay, so this is an example of like the worst chart you could possibly think of. You know, when you see stuff like this, obvious price discovery to the downside. You have your key level you're still trading below. So you have here was your first level this thing stopped out at after it cascaded all of its value to nothing. Then bouncing, followed by another test, and then here effectively breaking below it. And since it has been a resistance, so it's been a resistance going on essentially 2 years now with 2 clean rejection moments. We're going to zoom in. We're going to see what's going on. So I'm going to adjust this trend line a little bit like that to just include this recent rejection. Again, we're in crypto, so this is very volatile. And when we're looking at wicks, it could really distort our analysis. But needless to say, this is about as clean as it gets. So you have support, support, support. I'll call that support. Support, break. This is a confirmed resistance. That's not good at all, family. So even though we're making higher lows and higher highs, this I don't like. Because this is effectively 500 days too. So it's been trapped in this lower range now for 2 years, pretty much. Not good. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why there's such a big conversation around this thing. It's like, what's the thing here? I'll just be honest, you know, like this is a shitcoin chart. So I'm going to mark out the level to consider. It's this 23. If you could get above 23, who knows where the ceiling is on this, you know? But it's been price discovery to the downside since it launched. I'm not sure what's being invested in here. This is, again, venture capital in the low range. Like you're talking about 0.5% to 1%, maybe 1.5% maximum. This is money you go to the gambling casino with when you're drunk as fuck and you don't know if you're coming back home. You're like, this is really a speculative play. So yeah, be careful with this kind of stuff, guys. Don't over position yourself. Just words of wisdom. Because like, what's really the opportunity to get back to the main level that's been rejected off of at 23 cents is only 500%. Like we can see Ethereum go up 500%, and it has way more upside opportunity in the long term because ETH's not going anywhere. I mean, you better just invest in XRP, right? Like, invest in XRP would be a better move than this. So, yeah, I don't know. It's getting so many votes over the past couple weeks. This week was mind-blowing how many votes this thing got. Am I looking at the same chart as you? I'm not sure. This is gross. Again, I'm just being honest. It's the Red Pill podcast. We need honesty in this market, and there's nothing I like about this at all. There's nothing I like about this. I'm trying to find something. I really am. There's nothing that's good about this. There's nothing that's good about this. Look at this. It's the cleanest trend line you can get. Now, if you wanted to consider long-term data, you have where it starts, rejection for falling, again, rejection, rejection, rejection. That's probably as clean as it gets. Let me make this a little bit, make it white. And I'll just keep it on my screen for now. So, okay, if this thing can break this level, probably come back into here, bounce, and then, yeah, that might be the play. I can't spend too much time on this because we're not really looking at much of anything. Rejected, bounce, break above, bounce, get to this level here. That's critical. And then, you know, maybe have a little bit something like that, and we'll see when that time comes. But for now, in the short term, that's kind of how I see this turning out, and I'll leave these 2 trend lines on to see how this coin interacts on the next Red Pill podcast, which I don't even know if this thing is worth covering again. Let's move on. We have Flux. Okay, we got something to work with here. So we had a pretty decent bull run in this. Let's see the numbers. Yeah, about 4,000, 3,400%, followed by a correction of 91%. That's pretty good, actually. Obvious trend line resistance we have here. We're interacting with it pretty nicely. So all around this crown top, followed by the rejection. We've got a little bit of a bull trap and lower highs since, still to this day. I'm going to turn this on area. There you go. Yeah, that's so much better. Okay, so that's clean. All rejections at this level. This is the most crucial level. And if this thing could break out above this, I wouldn't be shocked if we got into automatic rally vibes. Like macro automatic rally. So let me tell you what the truth is. You have buying climax, selling climax, AR. This is your spring. You're in test right now. That'd be true, Wyckoff. Okay, so this interaction with the 236 is telling. That's pretty obvious to me. So that's most likely your bottom. And breaking above this would be good, but really it's the 382 you want to break above after your spring is over. So what that could look like is something like this. Or we get up to the 382 correction, then boom. Then now you start heading into this area. You know, this is like what Solana did and Chainlink recently, and like all these coins that everyone's been flipping so bullish on randomly. That's what's going on. All right. Actually, now that this is on my mind, I'm going to go quickly into IOTA because everyone has been talking about that. I'm just going to type in quick thoughts. But anyways, on Flux, yeah, I think this is completing its bear market vibe, and it's going to soon flip. Pretty bullish, and it has everything to do with the interaction with this trend line. The 236 getting above the 382 should signal pretty noticeable bullish energy. I don't know about the timing of all of this because of where we're at right now with Bitcoin, but this could shoot up straight to $1 in the short term and then come back down in February, back test the 236 and then keep it moving. Not a bad looking chart, but still too limited in data for me to personally give this any of my attention. Going to be looking at IOTA real quick thoughts. Now we have a long-term chart, and if we look at what's happening here in this project, we can see that this thing never had a new all-time high in the last cycle. So remember what I was telling you guys about earlier about how a lot of coins in this next cycle might do something like this, where they only come into like the golden pocket territory or the 888 fib, and then that's the end of the cycle. All right. That's what I said. And I feel like maybe the first chart I looked at, the Gala chart, that's probably what the IOTA chart is what Gala's going to do in the next cycle, most likely. So consider that. Now, when we look from buying climax to the level that we've dropped, it's a 98% move to the downside. And where we're currently at is still 95% down. So everyone's like starting to pay attention to this thing now that it's exciting, but it's like, why do we do that? Why don't you buy when it's boring, buy when there's blood in the streets? Stop getting excited when shit starts moving up in a straight line, but then also zoom out and look at it contextually. This is not impressive to lose 99% of your value and then go up, 100% in a couple days. Like, I get it. This thing's moved pretty nicely, but it's completely unsustainable. And that's what you do at the end of a spring. So we're at the end of the macro spring, which is as low as IOTA will probably ever get ever again. And it's not impressive because look at where your spring was. It was in the same level as the C19 crash. That was when Bitcoin was at $3,000. Bitcoin's at 40,000 right now. Like, what was the better investment? And it's just people are flipping so bullish on this thing so randomly. So be careful, family, please, because I'm going to show you why. This was right before the rally peak, which led to the C19 crash. You see the exact, look at this part of the screen and look at where my cursor is. Look over to the right. You see the exact level we went up from? Now we went up to, look where my cursor goes. Boom. Exactly where this thing hit. I'm not saying that this is the end and that this thing is going to crater to the downside back below 11 cents, but I'm just saying, look, zoom out and look at the way these things behave. Get very bullish very quick, and then it follows with a huge rejection. So ideally, if this thing was to slow down, which it should come into about 23, 22 cents, and then you could have a noticeable continuation into your SOS, which would be a break above your $2 level. Now, that would be a big opportunity because we're talking 800% up to the SOS. And if we were to look at all-time high, which is like $6, even if we were to go from right now, from buying IOTA today to the current all-time high, it is 1,800%. So that's venture capital. That's the kind of play that, you put a little in and you're you don't know that it's going to go up 1800%, but you at least have some data in the past and you've done your analysis holistically to determine these things. You always want to have a de-risking or exit strategy to consider, but that's why I have my exit strategy blueprint. It's included in my crypto mastermind course. Anyone who has that, you have lifetime access to it. And if you're somebody who doesn't want that entire crypto mastermind course, but you just want the exit strategy blueprint, I believe it's like $44. And then you get all this information, which will help you take advantage of this next bull run. It's the most valuable and cheapest thing I've ever released. So that's the kind of stuff where it's going to show you that, well, there's a reason to have your portfolio set up accordingly and an exit strategy where you de-risk the same way you would buy in, where you dollar cost average. It's the same thing with the way you sell. That's the kind of thing you really want to be implementing with stuff like IOTA, for instance, where it could just get so bullish so quick, and you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of this stuff. So I'm not telling anyone to sell this now. I don't think that this is done rallying. I think generally everything is more likely to move up around the month of March of this upcoming year. But I don't want people to get it twisted. A lot of the time when these things flip super bullish, super quick, it's time for Chief Wolf to come out and just let you all know, like, relax. It's not that big of a deal. Because ultimately, when you zoom out and look at this chart, this was one of the worst investments of all time, like, generally. If you bought Bitcoin back at $3,000, you'd be doing way better today on Bitcoin than you would have with IOTA. If you bought Bitcoin even in this time frame, looking at how it went into the next cycle, same story. And all the cycles before that. And that's just Bitcoin. That's the highest market cap crypto with way less volatility. So you bet on category winners. You don't get excited when the losers finally, make a quick move real quick. No offense to IOTA. I understand it's ISO 222 compliant. I would have a little bit more of this in my portfolio if I cared to, but I'm looking at other things right now, such as Aave and I've even given Cosmos a chance. So, did I skip over that? I might have. Okay, yeah, let's go into Cosmos. One second. Let me adjust. Can't believe it. I did skip out. All right, so this is a little bit better looking than what we were looking at before because we're looking at Cosmos, Atom right now. This is your C19 crash, and we're effectively up 400% since then, so that's looking pretty good. If I zoom into this current cycle, we have our buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, and then this was your completion of your spring. I started buying in right here around $9, essentially, and it's in preparation for this SOS phase, which should be taking us into the 702 fib. So we're looking at about 150, 200% move there. But the reason getting in early is because after your SOS, you typically never go lower than where your spring was. Your spring is effectively the lowest it goes. Sometimes it's the selling climax, depending on how volatile the asset, but traditionally it's your spring. So getting in around the spring is always the most discounted. Here was your spring of the last cycle. It was your C19 crash. Okay, so what this means is from these levels of buying into this current top, looking at about 300, 400%, but this is one of those projects that's very likely to enter price discovery. And that's what I feel is the preparation for. So make sure that this fib is on log scale. Sorry, this is glitching out a little bit. And then we're looking at a 1618 around $162. So that's definitely possible. If you're taking from the C19 lows, or let's just take from this double bottom level right there to be fair, and you're putting it up to the top, you got about a 2,000% move. So if we were to take from here up to there, you got about a 2,400% move. But we have to consider that this next bull run might be slightly different regarding shit coins and all the meme coin nonsense. Stuff like Atom could benefit from not being a meme. I don't know if that stuff's going to last too much more. We'll see how things go. But with regulation coming in the way that it is and with the SEC coming after everyone the way they're coming after them, well, you have to take that stuff into consideration for 2024, right? So the meme coins, the shitcoin game is fun if you're in and out. But when you're just trying to be a little bit more sophisticated about your investment thesis, like you'd want to look to more stuff like this. So I really like this chart structure. I feel confident getting in right post spring. I'm not worried about getting the perfect bottom. That doesn't matter at all to me. I'm looking at this long term. And another thing you could do is you could set this up into linear scale, and you could see this 4.236 somewhere around $160. So that would be a really wild move, but that's what altcoins do. So, I mean, if we're going to have a dramatic bull run where we can get all the way up to about 2,000, 3,000% on Atom, it wouldn't be crazy. We could all admit that. There was coins in the last cycle that went up 10,000, 20,000, 40,000%. I think even Theta was one of those examples where if you measure how much it went up in the last cycle from C19 spring, yeah, so you got 23,000%. If you go from the selling climax, you're looking at 40,000%. Mind-blowing. So Atom has been added to my portfolio for such reasons. Again, speculative though. We're looking at 2% of my portfolio. This isn't a big bet for me by any means. Same thing with Polkadot and Aave. All right, so let's wrap this up with Digibyte. It's been a minute. All right, so Digibyte is pretty much at the end of its bear market vibes too, but really lackluster because we've been seeing a lot of altcoins make it up into the 382, or at least above the 236. Anything below the 236 is lagging, and this thing is really poorly performing because it's trading back at the C19 levels. So that's like what IOTA is doing right now. It's here, and that means they could have an IOTA moment where it just goes up 100% randomly, and no matter what reason they give you, just know it's super suppressed and it's been trading down a majority of its value, 97% over the last 940 days. So that's the reason why it happens. Here, if you measure it out, you're going to see it took about 800 and something days for us to complete this whole move before flipping. And this thing has tons of data, which is pretty awesome. So let's see how many days. Yeah, this was effectively 1,100 days before it just went up in a straight line. So if we were to think similar, yeah, that would be taking us into June. Crazy. Look at this move. 30,000% in 90 days. 30,000% in 3 months. Can you believe that? Insane. This was a very elusive bull run in the past, though, because you have your all-time high, and then here you have a slight higher high bull trap. So that kind of stuff is really elusive and kind of annoying, actually, because it makes it very difficult to sell. But that's a big reason why you need to follow your exit strategy, and you must consider the 888 fib. Because if we pulled this, you're going to see what the 888 fib does. We only effectively traded above that level for a month. And if you were de-risking anything above the 888 fib, you were getting the best you can get, even if we went slightly higher. That's another tactic you want to use on these really speculative altcoins. Now, if you would have done that on like Theta in the last cycle, you would have been selling early. I get that. But you would have still made tons of profit. You would have gotten so much ROI. And when it's only 2% of your position, you could always consider like playing around a little bit more with, you know, those final moments of the alt season, we could call it. Anyways, not a whole lot to say on this because we do have it just lagging and trading below this critical level for about 550 days. I believe it needs to get above the 236 for us to have any updated analysis. In the meantime, look to this trend line, which has been going back since the genesis of Digibyte, all the way back at 2015, 2014. Look at this trend line over and over. At the bottom of the C19 crash again, and lately it's been rejected, and perhaps that could be in alignment with the next big move, which could take until September, to be completely honest. It might take until September to hit the 0.5 fib, but still. Now, from where it's at right now to the current all-time high is about 2,000%, so that's another great venture capital play. I mean, think about it. If you were to have $5,000 in a project plus 2,500%, you know what that becomes? That becomes 6 figures. So is it exactly? Yeah. So $5,000 plus 2,000%, it's going to get you into 6 figures. There you go. I'm not telling you to buy $5,000 of this. I'm just sharing. You know, what could be done is if you only had $5,000 and you wanted to break it up across a couple projects, maybe 3% each, Could be a tactic for a venture capital bag. Again, venture capital is stuff you're willing to let go to zero. Like you're set it, forget it. It's just big ROI. So I'm going to wrap up this podcast here, family. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you enjoyed this one. By the time it gets released, Bitcoin could have already hit 40K for all we know. Let me just check in really quickly before I sign off. Yeah, we're pretty much there. So again, let's see how this all goes now that Bitcoin has closed the daily above the 786 fib, the 618 fib. And I shared everything in the beginning of this podcast of what to anticipate over the next week to the next couple weeks. I will personally be de-risking in this. I will share a live update in the Discord whenever I do. I already have my limit orders set. I've shared all the levels and everything already with you, so you should be well aware. And I'm not telling anyone what they should be doing. I'm just sharing exactly what I am doing. Appreciate every single one of you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Sunday in the Matrix. Much love.